Of course, now we know how to collect values from various fields in this form. But what we haven't done is set up when to do that. So in this video, we're going to start writing some actual JavaScript in our file and start it on the road to responding and calculating the way we want it to. So what I need to do is make sure that when this form submits, it does this calculation for me. Now there's different ways I could do this. So what needs to happen here is I need to tell JavaScript to listen for an event. That's what we call it. When something happens, JavaScript should be listening for it and respond to it at that time. Now there's different ways that we could do this, different events we could listen to. We could listen for a click event on this estimate total button, but that restricts us to just clicks. If there's other ways that the form is submitted, like for example, if you were to just type in one of these text fields and hit return, the form could get submitted and that event would fire, but the click event on this button would not fire. So what we really want to do is listen for when this form is submitted, however it's done, and then we're going to intercept that event and execute whatever JavaScript we want to. So switching back over here to the text editor, I'm going to scroll down all the way to this JavaScript code block here, which currently has nothing but the use strict string, which puts the script block into strict mode to help me avoid errors. So what I'm going to do here is called adding an event listener. And the way you do that is by calling the add event listener method on the element of interest. So in this case, I want to intercept a submit event on this whole form. So I'm going to use add event listener, but I need to tell JavaScript which element should be listening for it. So I'm going to use get element by ID. I need to make sure that I use the right ID. So let's scroll back up and make sure we have the right one here. Here it is. Here's the form tag. And the one I want is cart oil. So I will copy that, scroll back down, and add it in here. So I'm retrieving that form element, and now I'm adding an event listener to it. This is a method, which means it's a function. So to call it, I follow with parentheses, and now it takes two arguments. The first one is the name of the event that I'm listening for, which is a string, and in this case, it is the submit event. The next argument that gets passed in is a function that actually does whatever I want to happen in response to, in this case, the submit event. So I'm going to add a comma there to separate the arguments. In this case, I'm going to use a named function. So because what I want to do is estimate the total, I'm going to name this function estimate total. Now, of course, I haven't defined this function yet, so it's not actually going to do anything at this point. I'm just setting this up and I'll define the function, well, right now. So I use the function keyword, which says, all right, I'm going to define a function. Let's do this. It's called estimate total. And in the parentheses that follow it, in the function definition, I add the arguments that it expects. In this case, I'm just going to add one argument, which I'm going to call event. Whenever you add an event listener, the function is able to accept an argument, which indicates the event that triggered. Now, I know that this is a submit event, so that's not perhaps very informative on its face, but I'll be able to do something interesting with it in just a second. So I'm going to add the curly braces for the function block. And now between these curly braces, I'm going to insert the code that I want to occur when this function is called. So the first thing that I'm going to do is take this event, and I'm going to call its method prevent default. Every event that JavaScript is aware of has this. And what this means is do not do what you normally do when this event happens. Only do what I tell you to. To show you what I mean, I'm going to switch back over here for a second. This file is unsaved. If I click estimate total, the page just basically reloads. I don't want that to happen. I want when I click this for nothing to happen except the JavaScript that I'm going to execute. So now if I switch back over here and save the file, come back here and reload. Now, if I click estimate total, there we go. Stays put, nothing seems to happen. Now, just to be totally sure that nothing is really happening and it's not just that I broke the page somehow, I'm going to switch back over here to my estimate total function and add console.log. This console object is built into the browser, and I'm calling its log method, which will just send a message in there when this piece of code is executed. So I'm going to say you got here safely. You won't be mistaking that for anything else. Save the file, switch back over, and I'm going to reload the page, Command R, open the JavaScript console with Command Option I, make sure I'm in the console view, scroll down so I can see this button, reload one more time just to be sure, and then I'll click this. And indeed, I got here safely. This form was listening for the submit event, at which point it called the estimate total function, which takes this argument event, which I used to stop the default action from taking place. And then I just set this message to the log, and there it is. So that is how you can intercept any kind of event that happens in a web browser. In this case, we're using the submit event, but most elements have a whole bunch of events that they can respond to, and therefore you can add listeners for those different events.